So you've pulled up your human design chart and you've noticed those 4 little arrows around your head, and you're wondering, what are these? Why are they pointing in different directions? And should I even care? Those arrows are officially called the variables in human design. And in this video, I'm going to explain to you what they are, what they mean, and how you can actually use them on a practical level. Hi, by the way, if you're new around here, my name is Veronica. I'm a coach and human design guide. And on this channel, I explain human design in a way that is simple to understand and easy to implement so that you can find more alignment in who you are, what you do, and how you do it. So if you'd like to see more videos like this, then make sure you stick around. Without further ado, let's dive in. The human design arrows are known as the variables. You will see 2 arrows on the left-hand side of your body graph and 2 arrows on the right-hand side of your body graph. And each one of those will be pointing in a particular direction, either left or right. Some of yours might all be pointing to the left, some might all be pointing to the right, or you could have a combination of the 2. And the direction that they're pointing in tells you something about how your energy is designed to operate. These are like your brain and body's default settings. They're not strict rules, but they are preferences. And when you lean into them, when you are aware of them, you will learn how you best take in information, food, ideas, your environment, and even how you best manifest. Before we break down what each one of those arrows means, here's an overview of what the different directions mean. When your arrow points left, it means that your energy relating to that specific area is more structured, strategic, focused and consistent. Whereas when your arrow points to the right, it means that your energy relating to that area is more flexible, more receptive, more intuitive, and more open. If it helps, you can really think about this in relation to the old school left brain, right brain idea. So left facing is about more logic, more planning and more doing, and right facing is more sensitive, more creative and more flowing. And neither one is better than the other. This is about how your system naturally operates. And once you understand this, you can lean into what feels most easeful instead of trying to make yourself operate in a way that simply doesn't feel good for you. So let's dive into each of the arrows and what they tell us about you. The top left arrow is referred to as your determination or your digestion variable. This arrow shows you how you digest life around you, whether it's through food, information, or experiences. So if this arrow for you is pointing to the left, you will have a preference for more structure and more consistency in how you digest information and food. For example, regular meal times, regular study routines, the use of systems. Whereas if your arrow points to the right, then you will do better with flexibility and ease. So really going with the flow in terms of when you eat, being more intuitive about what you're eating, as well as how you take in information. The bottom left arrow is known as the environment or the environmental variable. And this arrow tells you how you relate to the physical environment around you. So again, if your arrow is pointing to the left, that means that you have a natural preference for being in familiar environments and having consistency in your setups and in your surroundings. Whereas if yours is pointing to the right, you will thrive with variety. So mixing up your locations, mixing up where you're working from, and just being more spontaneous as to where you feel most comfortable day to day. So if we think about this, for example, in the context of working, if you have a left facing arrow, you might find it really beneficial to have a workspace and have a work environment that has consistency, that you always get into the mindset of work. Whereas if you have a right facing arrow, then actually it would be very beneficial for you to be able to change your location, whether you're working from the garden one day or the sofa another day, you're working, co-working space, or even if you have flexible working within your office, being able to change which desk you sit at depending on how you're feeling that day. The top right arrow is known as your awareness variable, also sometimes referred to as your focus arrow. And what this tells us is how your mind naturally processes awareness and information. So if your arrow is pointing to the left, you will have a preference for focused, strategic, detailed oriented thinking. Whereas if your arrow points to the right, you will have a preference for being more receptive, more open, and kind of big picture creative thinking. So when we apply this to everyday life, what you want to think about is if your arrow is pointing to the left, then by all means, look at the detail, look at the structure, really understand how things are broken down and go into the granular detail of how things work. Whereas if your arrow is pointing to the right, you don't need to go to that depth. You can look at the bigger picture and really take a more creative and open and flowing way of processing information without as much structure, without as much detail. And last but not least, we have the bottom right arrow. This is known as your motivation variable, but it's also sometimes referred to as your manifestation arrow or as your perspective. So this gives you information about how you tend to act and how you tend to perceive the things that you want. For example, how you set goals or how you manifest the things that you desire. So if your arrow is pointing to the left, then it's good for you to get specific about the things you want. So if you're setting goals, if you're manifesting, if you're visualizing, get specific. Get really clear as to what these things look like, sound like, feel like for you. The more specific, the better. And don't feel bad about it. Don't think that you're being too picky, for example, if you're really clear as to what you want. Being that specific is really good for you. Whereas if your arrow is pointing to the right, you might actually find it a little bit challenging to get specific around what you want or exactly the goals that you're working towards or exactly what it is that you want to manifest. For you, it's not so much about that specificity. It's not so much about the detail. It's not about knowing exactly what and how you want to experience or you want to achieve. It's more so about the feeling that you want to have. So how do you want to feel? And thinking about that is a lot more helpful for you when you are looking to the future, when you are looking to manifest, when you are looking to attract the things that are aligned for you, the things that are meant for you. So again, don't feel any shame around finding it difficult to pinpoint the things that you want. For you, it's much more about releasing, going with the flow, observing what the universe brings for you, and just making sure that it feels aligned, that it feels good, that it matches the way that you want to feel when you experience certain things, whether that's in your relationships, in your job, where you live, what your house looks like. So release the need to get super specific and to know exactly the what and the how. So if your arrow is pointing right and you're manifesting, it's totally fine for you not to be specific. Really tune into the way that something makes you feel. If you have the left arrow, then it's totally good for you to get super specific and get crystal clear as to what you want, because that will help you ground into your intentions. So we've covered each of the 4 arrows. I guess the big question is this actually important? Do I need to follow my arrows? As always, different practitioners will have different points of view. What I will say is that these are not rules, they are tools. Like everything else in human design, is there to help you feel more empowered, more clear on what works for you and what doesn't, more at ease with who you are, more validated in your experiences. So if you find this information helpful, lean into it. Move through life in a much more easeful way. If you find it confusing and overwhelming, then I would say let it be, let the information sit there. You might come back to it later on when you're further down your human design journey. And if not, that's also okay. What I recommend is getting really familiar and embodying the 4 foundational aspects of your design. These are your type, your strategy, your authority, and ideally also your profile. I have a whole video on this. I'll link it here on the screen and you can go check that out if you haven't seen it already, when you're looking to find more alignment in your human design. For me personally, there are aspects of my arrows I really resonate with and that I find really helpful. And then there are aspects that right now I don't feel the need to focus on, and that's okay. I might choose to focus on them later on. But either way, I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below and I'll try to get to them as soon as I can. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and I hope to see you here in the next one. Bye guys.